My name is Mike, and I'm 32 years old. I work the night shift at Walmart in a small town in Nebraska. Most nights are pretty slow, especially around 2 a.m. when the store is almost empty, except for a few late-night shoppers. I work in the electronics department, stocking shelves, fixing displays, and just passing the time until my shift ends. I've been doing this job for years, and nothing really surprises me anymore. That is, until a few weeks ago, when things started to get weird. It was a Wednesday night, and the store was dead quiet. I was in the middle of stocking some video games when I noticed a guy standing in the corner by the TVs. He was wearing a dark hoodie with the hood pulled up, just standing there, staring at one of the screens. I didn't think much of it at first. People do strange things late at night. But after a while, I realized he hadn't moved at all. I walked over, thinking he might need help or something. "Hey man, need anything?" I asked. No response. I got closer and repeated myself, but he didn't even look my way. He just stood there, staring at the screen. I couldn't see his face clearly because of the hood, but something about him made me uneasy. I figured maybe he was lost in thought or something, so I backed off and went back to my work. He eventually left, but the whole thing left me feeling off. The next night, the guy showed up again. Same hoodie, same spot. This time, I kept my distance. He stood there for at least an hour, not moving, not talking, just staring. I was starting to feel creeped out, but I didn't want to make a big deal out of it. People are weird, I told myself. Maybe he's just one of those night owls who wanders around for no reason. But it kept happening. Night after night, he'd show up, always in the same corner, always staring at the same TV. I thought about telling my manager, but honestly, what could they do? The guy wasn't breaking any rules. He wasn't causing a scene, just standing there. Then, one night, everything changed. It was close to 3 a.m., and I was getting ready to finish up when I heard a loud thud coming from the TV section. My heart jumped, and I rushed over, half expecting to see a TV had fallen off the shelf. But what I found was way worse. The guy in the hoodie was lying on the floor, face down. I froze for a second, my mind trying to make sense of what I was seeing. Slowly, I knelt down beside him, and that's when I saw the blood. His hoodie was soaked, and next to him was a crumpled note, half covered in blood. My hands were shaking as I picked it up. The words, smeared and uneven, read, "He made me do it." I dropped the note, panic setting in. I bolted to the back office to call security, but when I returned with them, the body was gone. There was no blood, no sign that anyone had even been there. I felt like I was losing my mind, but I knew what I'd seen. The guy had been lying there, dead, with that note in his pocket. But now, he was just gone. The police were called, and they reviewed the security footage. But the cameras hadn't caught anything unusual. No man in a hoodie, no body, no thud. It was like the whole thing never happened. I tried explaining what I saw, but they just looked at me like I was crazy. Maybe I was, but I knew what I saw. The next morning, I got a call. The guy's body had been found in the parking lot, slumped in the front seat of an old beat-up car. The police told me he'd been dead for hours, likely before I even saw him in the store. That didn't make any sense. How could I have seen him walking around if he was already dead? As they investigated further, they discovered the man had been part of some twisted online cult. The note I found, "He made me do it," was a reference to a series of murders the cult had forced him to commit. The man had been their pawn, and when he couldn't take it anymore, he took his own life. But why had he come to Walmart? What was he looking for? I couldn't sleep after that. Every night, I wondered if the cult was still watching, still lurking, maybe even targeting me next. I quit my job at Walmart the next week and moved to another town. But even now, I can't shake the feeling that someone is watching me, waiting for their next victim. I'll never forget that night. The blood, the note, and the man in the hoodie who haunted me for days. And every time I hear a thud or see someone standing too still in the dark, I wonder if the cult is still out there and if they'll come for me next. My name is Lisa, and I'm 25. I work as a cashier at the Walmart in our small town. It's not the most exciting job, but it pays the bills. I've been there for a couple of years now, and most of the time, it's routine, scanning items, smiling at customers, and clocking out after long shifts. But a few weeks ago, something happened during my night shift that I still can't explain, something that has haunted me every day since. It was late, just a few days before Christmas. The store was buzzing with last-minute shoppers, and I was exhausted. My friend and coworker, Emily, was working the shift with me. We'd been chatting between customers, talking about holiday plans and complaining about how busy it was. Emily was always cheerful, and working with her made the shifts bearable. But that night, something changed. Around 11 p.m., Emily told me she was heading to the break room to grab her jacket. We were closing soon, and she wanted to get ready to leave as soon as the store shut down. I remember nodding at her, not thinking much of it. But after about 15 minutes, I realized she hadn't come back. It wasn't like her to just disappear, so I decided to go check on her. When I got to the break room, Emily wasn't there. Her jacket was still hanging on the hook, and her bag was sitting on the table, untouched. I looked around the store, calling her name, but she was nowhere to be found. I asked a few coworkers if they'd seen her, but no one had. It was like she had vanished into thin air. My heart started racing, and I went to the security office to check the cameras. What I saw chilled me to the bone. The footage showed Emily walking toward the back of the store, like she was heading to the break room. But then, a man in a long, dark coat appeared behind her, following her closely. His face was hidden by a hood, and he moved silently, never too close, but always just a few steps behind her. The footage didn't show her leaving the store, and there were no other signs of her. She was just gone. I called the police, but when they arrived, there wasn't much they could do. They checked the cameras, questioned everyone, but Emily had disappeared without a trace. For the next few days, the store was tense. No one knew what had happened to Emily, and the police didn't seem to have any leads. Then, the text messages started. At first, I thought it was a sick joke. I got a text from Emily's phone, just a simple, "Hey." I replied, asking where she was, but the response I got made my stomach turn. It was a picture of a blood-stained wall, the kind you see in horror movies, followed by another message. "Help me." I tried calling the number, but it went straight to voicemail. The messages kept coming, each one more disturbing than the last. Pictures of blood-soaked floors, shattered windows, and finally, Emily's name, written in what looked like red paint, smeared across a mirror. I went to the police again, but they couldn't trace the messages. They told me it was probably someone trying to mess with me. Then, one night, after closing up the store, I saw it. A trail of blood leading from the break room to the back exit. My heart pounded in my chest as I followed it, each step feeling heavier than the last. The blood led me outside, to the back of the store, where I found Emily's uniform neatly folded on the ground. But there was no sign of her. I called the police again, and this time, they brought in a full team to search the store. What they found made my blood run cold. Hidden behind a false wall in the storage area, they discovered a small room, no bigger than a closet. Inside were ropes, duct tape, and more bloodstains. The walls were lined with photos of Emily, taken without her knowing, some from inside the store, others from who knows where. It was clear someone had been watching her for weeks, maybe even months. The police believed she had been held captive there before being taken. The worst part, the man in the long coat was never caught. The police said he was a suspect in several other disappearances in nearby towns. but they had no idea who he was or where he could be now. I quit my job at Walmart the next day. I couldn't stay there, not after everything that had happened. Every night, I still check my phone, dreading the possibility of another text from Emily's number, and wondering if the man in the long coat is still out there, watching, waiting for his next victim. My name's Brian, I'm 28, and I work overnight shifts as a stocker at Walmart. It's not the most exciting job, but it pays the rent. Most nights are quiet, with just a few late-night shoppers wandering the aisles. But over the past few weeks, something started happening that I can't explain. It still haunts me, and no matter how hard I try, I can't shake the feeling that it's not over. It started about a month ago. Around 3:00 a.m. every night, a woman would appear in the toy aisle. She was always alone, wearing the same pale blue dress, her long dark hair hanging down to her shoulders. At first, I didn't think much of it, just another shopper passing through. But the strange part was how she behaved. She never seemed to be looking for anything in particular. She'd pick up random toys, hold them for a few seconds, and then put them back. And every time, she would glance up at the security cameras, staring right into them like she knew someone was watching. The first time I saw her, I shrugged it off. But when she started showing up every single night, always at the same time, I couldn't help but feel uneasy. Something about her didn't seem right. One night, I decided to get a closer look. I followed her as she wandered from the toy aisle toward the sporting goods section. I tried to keep my distance, not wanting her to notice me. But as soon as she turned the corner, she vanished. I searched the entire store, but she was gone. There were no exits nearby, no reason for her to disappear so suddenly. I was confused, but more than that, I was scared. I went to the security office and asked to check the footage. The cameras showed her walking into the store at exactly 3:00 a.m., just like she did every night. But the strange thing was, the footage never showed her leaving. She just walked into the toy aisle and disappeared off camera. No sign of her anywhere else. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was very wrong. The next night, she showed up again, right on time. This time, I didn't follow her. I just watched from a distance as she repeated her routine, picking up a toy and staring at the camera. But when she put the toy back, I noticed something different. A bloody handprint on the box. I felt a chill run down my spine. I walked over to the shelf and sure enough, there was a faint, smeared handprint on the toy box. My heart started racing. I didn't know what to do, but I knew I had to tell someone. I called the police, and when they arrived, they checked the store's security footage again. They didn't believe me at first, but what they found shocked them. The police discovered that the woman in the footage had been reported missing weeks ago. But here's the disturbing part. She had been found dead, her body dumped miles away from the store. According to the police, she had been murdered just days before I first saw her in the toy aisle. Someone had been posing as her, using her appearance to mess with people in the store, and possibly to stalk employees. The police never figured out who the person was or why they were doing it. But after that, I couldn't stay there. I quit my job the next day, packed up my things, and tried to move on. But no matter where I go, I can't shake the feeling that whoever it was is still out there, watching. Sometimes, late at night, I wake up with the sense that someone's standing outside my window, staring in, just like that woman did with the cameras. I haven't seen her since I left Walmart, but the memory of those nights, of that bloody handprint, is burned into my mind. Whoever it was, they wanted me to see them. And I'm terrified that one day, they'll come back.